WTIM.
And we're back with the WTIM Morning Show here on your information station and brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Joining us in this segment, we've got Jack Myers, and Jack is the Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration. Jack, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Grayson. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I am doing well on this end. Glad to hear that things are all right by you. Well, as always, you come to me with more than enough. Prepared as always is Jack Myers, and today we want to talk first and foremost about Social Security. It appears to me that you've added 13 new conditions to Compassionate Allowances list, and this is where we turn it to Jack to help fill things out and figure things out as well. Jack, what do you quite mean by that, and what is the Compassionate Allowances list?
Yeah, so that is some news. We did add those 13 new conditions to that list recently. Basically, Grayson, that is a list of, most severe conditions that we've worked with the medical community, we've worked with advocates through the years on, and, basically just identifying these conditions that very clearly meet our criteria for our disability programs. So we at Social Security administer two different disability programs. We have the Social Security disability that's based on the work you've done and the Social Security taxes you've paid. And then we have the Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, disability program. And that one's a needs-based program, so you don't have to have that work history to qualify. The benefits for SSI are paid out of federal tax dollars, but they're not paid from Social Security contributions. So it's just your general federal income tax that you pay that goes to support the SSI disability program. On a medical side, both of them are the same. The criteria are the same to qualify. So it's just that non-medical stuff that we talked about, the work requirements, being the non-Social Security program. SSI is a needs-based program, so there are income and asset restrictions. But for the purpose of today, I kind of want to focus more on the medical side and how a person qualifies. And, when you're facing a disability, that financial support that you can get from our disability programs can be really important to people, but it takes some time when you apply. There's a process. It takes us a while to actually make a medical determination. Your case has to be assigned to an adjudicator. Then that adjudicator has to request and review your medical records. And in July of this year, the average processing time for a disability application was about 220 days, which, that's not a short period of time, but Grayson, that's actually down from where it has been. That's the lowest point it had been over the last year, and 240 days was the highest point in January. So why do I bring that up? Well, that's where this compassionate allowance list comes into play, because if you have a condition that's on the list of compassionate allowance cases, then we can expedite your claim. Basically that means we can get it fast-tracked and assigned to an adjudicator faster. We can really cut down a lot of time on the decision-making process, because some of that work's been done on the front end for those conditions. And, these are a lot of technical type conditions. So
Okay.
We're not going to go through, we've got about 300 different conditions on the list. So, we'll not go through that right now. But, if you want to see the list, you can find that on the website. Go to ssa.gov/compassionate allowances, or once you get to ssa.gov, just search in the search box compassionate allowances, and you can see all those different conditions. But understand, if you have one of those, this is all about expediting. We've, like I said, done some of the development on the front end for those conditions, and it just helps us make a decision faster and, get you hopefully those disability benefits a little earlier than we otherwise would have been able to.
Okay, so 220 days is the turnaround time as it was in July of 2025, down 20 days. And 20 days is not something to just kind of brush aside. I think that's an important thing to touch on. 300 total conditions on that list. It's just to help you expedite the process. But a quick question I have for you: am I able to draw on both? Am I able to pull from both, even if, say I'm approved for either, or do I only get one?
Yeah. So with your question there, you're talking about the two disability programs that we offer. Sometimes people do get both, and typically, Grayson, the situation where that would arise would be, a person has worked enough to qualify for something from the Social Security Disability Insurance Program, but maybe not very much. Maybe they just barely have enough work credits, so they're not going to get a very high benefit from the Social Security Disability Program. In those circumstances, if they also have low income and few assets, and so they meet the criteria for our SSI, Supplemental Security Income Program, you can potentially get both. And where that would come is if your Social Security is less than the current SSI amount of $967 a month. So you may be able to get a little bit from Social Security and then a little bit more from SSI to get you up to the $967. Now, we do actually have what we call just a general disregard and income disregard. So we can disregard your first $20 of Social Security income when we're considering your eligibility for SSI. So if you don't have any other income, then you could potentially get up to $987 per month combined from the two programs. Now, if you're going to be over that on the Social Security disability, then you wouldn't have any eligibility for SSI. But there is a possibility, to answer your question, of getting something from each program to get you up to that federal benefit limit of $967, or like I said, $987 after we factor in the $20 income disregard.
Okay. And that was what that's just the question that I had kind of that arose during that conversation there. And we'd like to kind of turn our attention to, and I just actually should make sure, anything else that you want to touch on here in terms of the 13 new conditions to the compassionate allowances list, anything else when it comes to this topic here?
I think the only other thing I want to mention on that, Grayson, is that you don't have to know that your condition is one of the 300 compassionate allowance conditions in order to benefit from this expedited processing. Our computer system will automatically screen based on your alleged conditions whether or not you fit the criteria for this compassionate allowance program. So the important takeaway for you as a potential applicant, you the listener as a potential applicant, is just tell us all of your conditions. Tell us your conditions, tell us the technical name for those conditions, and then we'll do the rest in terms of screening to see if you qualify for one of those compassionate allowance initiatives. But if you want to see the list, of course, you can view it on the website at ssa.gov.
Okay. And all of this trying to help expedite the process, which is kind of what we'd like to talk about next, in Social Security delivering faster, maybe more reliable service to more people in the ways that are available to them. What can you tell me about trying to expedite maybe not just this process for the compassionate allowances list, but other processes too?
Yeah, we're in the service industry, right? We're providing service to the American public, and we're always looking for ways to improve the level of service that we offer. We talk a lot on these interviews about our website, ssa.gov, and that's because it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful way to conduct business with us. You can apply for benefits. You can do a lot of different things if you create a My Social Security account for yourself at ssa.gov. So that's going to be one of the first things we recommend for folks is, check out the website, ssa.gov. But we're also cognizant of the fact that we want to meet people where they want to be served. And that's not always going to be online for every individual. So we're trying to make improvements to the way that we offer services online, over the phone, or in person. And, recently we're handling more customer requests than ever and actually have been able to drive down wait times. We estimate that due to the reduction in wait times over the last year, we've saved Americans approximately 45 million hours worth of wait time over, the country and, just all of the people that have chosen to do business with us. And those improvements have come in all three phases, the online services, the phone services, the in-person services. One of the things that we've done to improve access on the online front is we used to have these weekly maintenance windows where, a certain number of hours each day, the website was down for maintenance, and we've eliminated 29 hours a week of that downtime for maintenance purposes. So, that's expanded access there. On the phone services, we've kind of modified our whole phone system. Nearly 90% of callers are now able to use our automated phone service to verify benefits, check claim status, change their address, request tax or Medicare forms. For those who need an agent, average wait times have dropped from 21 minutes in August of 24 down to just 9 minutes in August of 2025. And the answer rate has increased to 75%. So that's been a really nice improvement. And then on the in-person front, even though most of our services can be completed online or by phone, there are still times where you may need to visit a local Social Security office. We've switched mostly to an appointment-focused service model. So, that means you are going to need, in most cases, to make an appointment to visit an office. But the advantage of that is now when you have an appointment, the average wait time is just about 7 minutes in the office. So, that's really a big improvement as well. And we've kind of started putting this stuff out on the website. So if you go to ssa.gov, you can scroll down to the section that says see how we're doing, and you can find all of this stuff, all these statistics that I just mentioned right there on the website. So it's really a nice way to keep track of our progress.
Talking a whole lot today about expediting the process, saving 45 million hours a year for Americans. I sure think those people will be happy about that, and also just how we're doing it in kind of a multifaceted approach and meeting people where they're at. And so obviously all things that can be appreciated on this end and out there as well. Well, right now we're speaking with Jack Myers, Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration. We'll come back. We'll talk more with Jack in just one moment. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
WTIM.
Let's check markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and wheat steady at this hour. December corn down 1 1/4, 4.25. March corn down half a penny, 4.42.5. May corn 4.51.5, down 3/4. November beans up 1.5, 10.13.5. January beans up 1 1/4, 10.33. March beans 10.49, up 1 1/4. December wheat 5.22.5, up 2. March wheat up 1 3/4. 5.40 3/4. October bean meal 274.80, that's down 30 cents. October bean oil 49.49, up 14 cents. Livestock trade September feeders 364.97, up 12 cents. October live cattle 234.82, down 77 cents. October lean hogs 99.77, down 75 cents. Energy market November crude oil 64.45, up $1.05.
Of the 2024 construction projects by Christian County businesses, those businesses saved an estimated $370,000 in sales tax by utilizing the county's enterprise zone. Through the efforts of the Christian County Economic Development Corporation over the past 20-plus years to establish and grow the county's enterprise zone, new and existing businesses in the county can save significantly in sales taxes. Find out how they can help your business by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. The Christian County Economic Development Corporation is moving Christian County forward.
The holiday season will be here before you know it, and holiday entertaining that comes with it. Hi, Darren Seaton here, manager at Taylorville Home Stores. Yes, it may be a long time away, but believe me, it'll be here sooner than you think. Now's the time to stop by and pick out your new kitchen, flooring, or bathroom you're wanting installed in time for having the family in for the holiday season. Don't wait. Get on the install list now before it fills up. Taylorville Home Stores is your local design center. East Park Street, Taylorville.
Taylorville Care Center's personalized therapy program helps you get back to enjoying the sunshine. Whether it's backyard barbecues, grandkid games, or summer strolls, we'll get you moving again. You'll have a private room, great medical care, and the therapy you need to get home and back to doing what you love. Friends and family are always welcome to stop by and cheer you on if you've been in the hospital or just need a little boost. Taylorville Care Center is here to help. Call 824-9636. 824-9636. Taylorville Care Center, caring for our community for over 50 years.
At People's Bank and Trust, they help their consumer and business customers spend their time living their life, not explaining it. At People's Bank and Trust, they put people first. Find out how they can help you by clicking their banner ad at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Hi, this is Jeff Robinson from Advanced Title. Whether selling your home on your own or through your local realtor, please give us a call at 824-8007 for all your title work needs.
WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show here on your information station and brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Joining us in this segment, Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration, Jack Myers. We'd like to turn our attention now to returning to work while receiving Social Security disability insurance benefits. We touched on that a little bit at the start of the show, but what about returning to work? Can you tell us about, Jack?
Yeah, Grayson, it is important to kind of circle back to the first part of our conversation where we were kind of going through the two different disability programs that we administer, Social Security Disability and SSI. I talked about the fact that from a medical perspective, the criteria is going to be the same. Of course, the non-medical criteria for qualifying are different. For SSDI, Social Security Disability, you have to have that recent work history. You have to pay into Social Security, and then your benefit amount is going to be based on what your prior earnings were. On the SSI side, you don't have to have the work history, but it's a needs-based program, so you have to have limited income, limited assets to qualify. When it comes to returning to work, there are differences, big differences between those two programs. When you're on SSI and you go back to work, you need to report that to us right away, because any type of income can start to impact your eligibility for SSI, and your benefit amount can fluctuate month to month based on what you earn. But for today, I want to focus a little bit more on the Social Security Disability Insurance Program. For the Social Security benefits, your work, if you go back, doesn't have that immediate impact like it does for SSI. Now, that being said, it is still important to report that to Social Security to keep track of what your wages are. If you report that you've returned to work and you give us your employer's identification number, after you make that report, you can go into your online My Social Security account and you can report your wages to us every month. So that's a really easy way to do it. Okay. But you have some incentives on, basically we call it a trial work period, where the first 9 months back to work, you won't lose your Social Security. You'll be able to work and get your Social Security disability. So basically it's structured in a way so that you can attempt to work and see if it's going to be successful before you're at risk of losing your Social Security disability insurance. So the key takeaway there, Grayson, make sure you report it to us in a timely fashion, keep track of what you're earning, and understand what those work incentives are. Trial work period is the first 9 months. After that, your benefits would stop and start depending on, if you made a certain amount of money. $1,620 a month is the threshold this year. If you're under that, you would keep your disability. If you're over that, your disability benefits would stop for that month. Okay. And that's gross wages. But you can learn more about that. If you're interested in the topic, go to our website, ssa.gov, look for our publication section, and there's one that's called Working While Disabled, How We Can Help. It'll go through the trial work period, that extended period of eligibility. But basically with those two things, Grayson, I've just kind of laid out almost a 4-year period where, for the first 9 months to a year, you'd get your disability and your earnings. And then for the next 3 years, you would only miss your Social Security disability check if your earnings were over like $1,620 a month this year. So it's really helpful. And throughout all that, you would keep your Medicare coverage that you've become eligible for on the basis of being disabled. So, it really is a way for you to try to get back into the workforce and not jeopardize losing your disability all at once.
And I never knew that a trial work period existed, but to see that it does, and also kind of gives you a chance to see if you can re-enter the workforce. I like to hear that. And so for Jack here on this end, we're just about out of time, but we do appreciate you joining us here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Jack Myers, Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration here on the WTIM Morning Show.